Good morning, everyone. We hope you're well. We're not sure where everyone is, but it's been quite chilly. So we hope that you're keeping warm. You've got a nice cup of coffee with you, or tea if you prefer it, like me. Um, just for those of you who don't know Tamara and me, we're the founders of a little business called EQ Consulting and Coaching, and we are coaches, people development, and a people development consultancy that helps businesses to identify, to manage, and then to either reduce or completely remove the people risk within your business. Most of us tend to focus on just the sales or just the finances. This fits hand in glove with exactly that. And what we're doing today is we're going to be taking you through something called the wellness wheel. Are your people well? Not just physically, not just mentally, but over 8 different facets. And how you'll see how these practically apply. But more than that, we're going to be taking you through some of the traps that businesses fall into, and then show you some of those. Sorry, I didn't realize my video was off. I apologize.
Don't worry, Jared.
Sorry, that was very strange. And then taking you through how this practically applies within your business so that you are looking after all facets within your business and can have every opportunity to be as successful as possible. So we are going to be exploring the 8 dimensions, learn how to actually assess where your current business wellness is, but also your people's wellness. And we use the word wellness in a very specific way. It's not just about as we said, the physical. In fact, mental wellness, stress, burnout, disengagement has been costing businesses worldwide a massive amount of money. In recent studies over the past 4 years, Gallup has found that it's actually costing business worldwide 10% of the world's GDP, just under $9 trillion US. Now, you're probably thinking, that doesn't affect me. I'm a small business. But just think what an extra 10,000 Rand a month or an extra 100,000 Rand, 200,000 Rand a year does to your business, what you can do with that. So we're here to try and help you experience the wellness wheel and start implementing it in a way that's practical and makes sense for you. Thanks,
Jared. Thanks. So guys, for this, it's quite personal, even though it's relevant to businesses. We are aware that most of you are entrepreneurs or business owners or work for businesses. But what we're going to do is we're going to take you through an actual quiz, okay? And it's a little bit different. We're going to take you through theory, and then there's a quiz in between. So I would like you to have a pen and paper. This is an engaging session. We'll keep an eye out for the chats. If you've got any questions, Marie, welcome to stop us. But I really want you to start thinking about this whole exercise as for you to identify areas within the wellness dimension. Just like Jared said, it's not just the mental, emotional, and physical. There's a lot more involved with wellness. And hopefully after today, we'll just help you with some things that you need to be aware of, and then some tools and tips and techniques. Okay, so everybody got a pen and paper ready? Give me a thumbs up, say yay. Okay. Awesome. Got some thumbs up. Right. So I'm going to just read this. So basically, this is a flash quiz. Like we said, we're going to do it throughout the presentation. So we'll do a bit of theory, and then we'll do some questions. And then, like we want you to engage. We want you to start thinking of these things. So I want you to rate yourself on each statement, okay? This is your rubric from 1 to 5 using the following scale. So 1 is really true, okay? Number 2 is sometimes true for me. Number 3 is often true for me. Number 4, usually true for me. And 5 is on the other side of the scale, almost always true for me. Okay, so 1 being less truthful, 5 being your most truthful. Okay, I'm going to ask you the first couple of questions. Everybody ready? Okay, so this is the flash quiz. Number 1, and obviously we haven't explained this to you, but we want you to start thinking about it. So question number 1, answer this to the best of your ability and be as open and honest as you can. Okay, this obviously you don't have to share your results with us, but I want you to reflect as you answer these. So number one, I regularly assess and balance all dimensions of my wellness wheel: the physical, emotional, social, intellectual, occupational, spiritual, environmental. And we will explain these, but I want you to just start thinking about it. Number two, with regards to the wellness dimensions, I set SMART goals. SMART meaning specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, time-bound, to improve areas of my wellness that need attention. Again, be as honest as possible. Number three, I use prioritization techniques. Okay, for those of you that maybe know these techniques, if you don't worry, we'll explain them. Eisenhower, ABCDE method, etc., to manage tasks effectively and align them with my wellness goals. Okay, those are the first three questions. Answer as truthfully as you can. Remember your rubric, 1 being almost never, 5 being almost always true for me. Okay, and thank you, Jared. He's posted it in the chat. Okay, I'll give you a moment. Like I said, this is a very engaging session.
And for anyone who wants, who's arriving late, excuse me, if we need to go back to these questions a little bit later, we are more than welcome to, happy to accommodate you as well.
So thank you, Jay. All right, so the wellness wheel. This is a visual representation to key areas in the wellness, okay? Most of us know the physical, the emotional, okay, maybe the spiritual. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to just take you through the first couple and then Jared will do the rest, okay? So let's talk about I'm going to start with the physical, okay? And in our slides that will be shared with you, there's a full explanation, but just high level. What is the physical? That's the physical body, looking after your physical well-being, going to the doctor, exercising, getting enough sleep, okay? We know these are all basic needs. In the hierarchy of the basic needs, we need food, we need shelter, right? Everything to do with our physical bodies. Then there is the emotional, mental aspect. The emotional, mental. So who are your support system? How are you looking after your emotional well-being? How are you behaving emotionally? Are you tuned in with your emotions? Or do you choose to ignore them, suppress them? Something called the anger iceberg. Sometimes when we're overwhelmed with our emotions, we're bottling everything inside. Something small causes us to explode. Our mental well-being, right? Cognitively, how are we taking time to rest our minds, okay? How is stress affecting our minds? Environmental, okay? Some of you might not realize, but the environment we're in, neat desk. Are we recycling? Are we looking after nature, the environment? Are we decluttering our homes or are we hoarding? All right. The financial aspect, okay, that's budgeting. That's looking after your financial means, living within your financial means. Are you overspending? Are you saving? Are you planning for retirement? From a business sense, are you using systems that are making your life easier for billing, etc.? Okay, your occupational. Okay, and then I'll hand it over to Jared. That's all about your growth. Okay, where are you in your career? Are you happy with what you do in your career? Are you looking to grow? You got the right people to support you in your business?
And are you working with the right people too? Is the culture, that institutional or corporate culture, or in the case of a small business, let's call it the business culture, is it something that you fit in with and it fits in with you? So we don't talk about assimilating into it, but integrating. So bring your best with it. And at the same time, how is that shaped? And is it a culture that is one of fear, or on the other end, a culture of desire, where people want to get up in the morning and actually be part of that organization? And that ties in beautifully with the next one, which is the social aspect. So our social health, we are social creatures. We need to be with other people. Some of us are more introverted and draw our energy from environments that are a little bit quieter. But at the heart of it, people need people. And it is something in different doses. That's something I just want to actually mention at this point is what may be good for one person is not necessarily the answer for someone else. So some people will feel they need to go and get their 2 hours of gym in or whatever the case may be a day. And for other people, it just could be a 10-15 minute stretch every day or a walk 3 times a week. Whatever it is, the equilibrium has to suit you. Okay. Now, really, what's often overlooked as well and has a profound effect on both the physical and the emotional aspect is our intellectual wellness. Are we actually exercising our minds? Are we thinking about things in a productive way? Are we living in the present? And when I say the present, I mean we are not dwelling on the past because that tends to depress people. If we always think about things that could have been, should have been, would have been. Or are we thinking about what's going to happen tomorrow, next week, next month, next year? And if we start worrying about that, it starts creating anxiety. It builds up stress because these are things that we cannot control, which is a huge cause of stress. And then lastly, but definitely not least, is the spiritual component. Now, for some people, that is religion. For some people, it means something completely different. But this is ultimately what gives you as an individual joy. It could be spending time in nature. Go ask any game ranger. They live for the bush. It's their calling. The spiritual aspect is what actually keeps our soul, our purpose going. Okay, so we're looking at the physical, we're looking at the head-based, heart-based, intellectual, again, the mind. How do we think about things and stopping ourselves from overthinking? Now, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be going through these 8 elements, okay, within the wellness wheel. You'll see that we also thread in quite a lot to do with goal setting, prioritization, and time management, because it's pretty overwhelming when you see this and you think, oh my word, I've got to do this every day. I've got to go to the gym. I've still got to drop the kids at school. I've got to find time for the spiritual aspect. How am I keeping my emotions in check? Oh, wait, now I've got to make sure that the environment I'm in is clear, uncluttered, because that's the way I work best. Or it's a mess, which is the way I work best. It just depends on you. And then I've got to do my finances, especially at month end now. So, how do we get this all? So, we want to take away that overwhelm, which I've just created, and now take you through some tips and tricks on how we can actually live a more well-balanced life. And that's ultimately the message that we're trying to get across.
Thanks, Jay. So also just to add, there's a all up, okay, a practical component, okay. But just again, the wellness wheel is this visual guide, right? It helps you to identify areas that you need to spend time and effort and set goals in, okay. Also, these are very interconnected, okay. You could do one thing that speaks to 2 or 3 or 4 aspects. You could add that as a habit or a goal into your life. The idea of this is awareness. If we know what we know, now we can pay attention to it. Okay. When I was introduced the wellness wheel a couple of years back, it was like a flashbulb moment for me because I knew these things, we might have never been taught that these are aspects that we need to look after. So it's a nice way that you can assess yourself, you can set goals, but we don't want to overwhelm you, okay? We don't want you to set goals now in all areas, and we're going to take you through a couple of tips and techniques and where entrepreneurs, where business owners fail in those certain dimensions, okay? All right, so most importantly, because we're in the stress and burnout space, myself and Jared, we want you to be aware that it's okay if you failed in certain areas. It's okay if you haven't gymmed in months. It's now winter. Who wants to get up in the morning at 5 a.m. and go run? No one. Okay, I'd rather be in bed cuddling with my cats. The idea here is we don't want to overwhelm you. We want to help you think of different ways, effective ways. And really, this is about the holistic wellness. Okay, as human beings, we don't just fall into one category. We are people that are part of a larger community. We have works, we have jobs, we are mothers, we are fathers, we are business owners, we are employers, we are employees. There's so much that identifies that. Okay, and the idea here is all about being aware. Now that you know, what you're going to do about it. So it's creating that structure. Okay, and ultimately we want you to, even if it's one or two or three things that you take away from today, don't overwhelm yourselves. We want you to be more productive. We want you to get to everything that you need to, but it's also impossible to get to all of these dimensions, okay? We're going to go through the physical traps of each dimension. Where do most entrepreneurs or business owners or even employees fail in those areas, okay? I'm going to start off with the physical traps, and then I'll hand over to Jared to do the next one, okay?
Just one thing while we're going
Sure.
through this. Often, and we've had a number of clients for coaching, and we find this on an individual level and in groups as well. But people seem to live according to the movie, everything, everywhere, all at once. It's not possible. We are finite. Our days are finite. You have 24 hours in the day. Most of that time is spent running around at work, but you do need time for things like family. You do need times for yourself to sleep. And what we want above all, when we're talking about these traps and tips, is that you think about it as, oh no, I don't have to do it right now. Because if I have to do it right now, I'm probably not going to be able to get to everything, and I will probably fail at achieving this huge idea of doing everything every day. So the whole process is one that build up, store in the bank what you can. So if that means you're walking, you're going for you're doing the physical twice a week, that's fine. But you can find what kind of works for you. You get into your groove, but we need to start. So as T said, she's going to take you through the physical traps and tips, and we'll slowly move through all 8 and where the key pitfalls are. So forgive us if we add a bit of a mentoring hat too on top of our coaching one.
Thank you. And just to add, if you are a victim of any of these, so the physical traps in each dimension, just let us know, just put it in the chat. So let's talk about the physical aspect, right? Most of us work online. We have laptops. We might sit for long hours without taking breaks, right? We might not even meal plan. We might not eat healthy. We might have poor posture, lack of exercise, like I mentioned. Now it's cold. Who wants to exercise? So you need to treat that physical body, right, as a machine that you need to fuel. It needs food. It needs rest. It needs to be checked. You need to go to have your medical checkups. You fuel it right. Take care of it. And some of the techniques, tips, and tools we're giving you here is we know them. Okay, they're not new. We all know we need to drink water. We all know we need to eat healthy. But as coaches, we normally will guide our clients to set meaningful goals and to make sure that they reach those goals. And we have a nice way of encouraging that. And we'll talk about it when we get to the SMART goals. But the idea is short, mini habits that you can start doing is stop, put an alarm on, take a stretch, go outside, physically move your body, look after your body, especially if you're an entrepreneur working 14, 15, 16 hours a day, hustling, okay? You'll find that you will feel the tension in your body. You will have a sore neck, sore muscles, okay? If you feel any of these, okay, here we've got a comment. Dicker Lady says, I feel exposed. I sit at my desk for hours and skip meals a lot. Absolutely. I mean, I have to remind myself to drink water. I mean, right now I'm having electrolytes, right? Because I don't drink enough water. So that's the physical traps. Jared, do you want to take us through the emotional traps?
Absolutely. So often the ones that are obvious are the physical traps. Some of us don't realize when we are experiencing emotional challenges. because we just simply don't have the time to tap into our emotions. So often we need someone to be that mirror, to let us know you're not being yourself. And and because of the hectic schedule that pretty much, excuse me, that pretty
Mm.
much I would say, I'm guessing here, but 95 to 100% of you are experiencing every day. It just seems like a rat race. We suppress our emotions. We don't open ourselves up to them. And particularly when we are under pressure, there are some people who become exceptionally emotional. Um, but the key here is to have those emotional check-ins, whether it's with yourself, whether it is with your buddy, someone who is going to actually be able to just listen. They don't have to give you advice. They're not psychologists, they're not psychiatrists, but they're there to be a resource for you to bounce off. So,
Mm.
a simple little tip that we like is when I get up in the morning, let me do a bit of a mood check-in. How am I feeling today? Am I feeling excited because we got that big presentation? Am I feeling anxious because I've got that big presentation? Because remember, we always have the choice of how we're going to react at an emotional level to any stimulus, to any situation. Okay. And then practice something called emotional labeling. And we're not big proponents of labeling people, but when we name things, we can
Mm.
then make them real, we make them tangible. So one of the best ways to do this is to actually keep a mood or an emotion journal. It allows us to be mindful of how we are feeling, what we are feeling, and by writing it down, it becomes real. Okay, now if I'm feeling exceptionally anxious, as an example, which is a pretty common one in the business world in general. Okay. How do I then find my way past that? Well, I can practice mindfulness, which is something that we assist clients with, which is just getting to the heart of it. And it's a little, we don't have time to go into the whole of mindfulness right now, but there are a number of apps that can assist you. But sometimes we just need a human being to
Mhm.
be on the other end and help us concentrate on what is that one thing, what can I do, and how can I work myself through this emotional state, good or bad. So some of us actually experience severe ranges of emotion, good and bad. And what we're trying to do is experience them all, but in a more tempered way, more, somewhere nearer the middle. Anger shouldn't become rage. Happiness shouldn't become complete and utter elation all the time, because that in itself affects the way we think, it affects the way we interact with people. And ultimately, we want to move away from stress creating situations for ourselves and for others. Okay.
I
If we
want to
move
just add
on.
here, Jay, I just want to add to what you're saying here with the emotions, right? Especially if you're an entrepreneur, especially if you're working the long hours. There's a beautiful video that goes around with Simon Sinek where he says, it's quite long, but eventually the idea is, who is the person you call when you're having a rough day? And he uses the analogy of 8 minutes, right? So when you need those 8 minutes, and you need someone to talk to, just tell that person, do you have 8 minutes for me? Right? Who are those people that build you up, that make you feel supported? Reach out to them. Don't hold on to the emotions. And if you need, more, tailored assistance, we offer that in our coaching practice.
Yeah.
Okay. So the
Um,
intellectual, yes, Jay?
Yeah. So actually, with Simon Sinek as well, he's an
Mhm.
absolutely amazing repository for the emotional development of entrepreneurs and people. He talks about empathy. The one that
Mm.
tomorrow is speaking about is incredibly powerful if you can get your hands on it. But scientifically, it's been proven. All we need is 8 minutes.
8 minutes, yeah.
8 minutes together.
And that then speaks to the social, which we'll get to. But you'll see there's a very much interconnectedness between the dimensions of the wellness wheel. Okay, so the intellectual traps. So you've got the mental well-being, and then you've got the intellectual, right? They seem very much similar and they overlap. The intellectual part is more about the stimulation of your brain. Okay, what are you putting into your mind? Where is your attention? What are you feeding your brain? You know, if you're going to look at the negative news all day, if you're going to look at society or the economy, you're going to look at politics, the government, nothing's working, you know, almost the locus of control, if you've ever come across internal locus of control, external locus of control. Where is your mindset? What are you feeding your brain, right? How do you keep learning new things? What articles are you feeding, you know, intellectually? So here it's about, you know, as an entrepreneur, again, it's your network, or it's a podcast, or it's in a webinars, it's networking, you know, just mastering that mind aspect intellectually. What are you feeding in? Okay, you need to stimulate that brain. If you're going to, I don't know if you've heard of this term, but if those top 5 people you spend time with, you become like. Okay, so who are those top people? What are the top things that you are feeding your brain? I'm going to move on to environmental. I am very aware of the time. Jay, is it okay if I take us through environmental, and then you can do the financial?
Go right ahead. Go right ahead.
Right. So environmental, I mentioned quite briefly, is about the environment, your immediate environment, and then it can go bigger, it can go neighborhood, community, the world, etc. You know, are you decluttering? Are you recycling? Are you looking after your space? You know, are you the type of person that can't work if it's a busy, noisy, cluttered environment? Okay. I know for myself, the minute my desk is a mess, I cannot think. So I need time to clear my desk. I need to have, you know, just my pen and my water and everything in its place, a place for everything. You could also use, if you're a person that likes scent, you know, candles, oils, that type of thing, and just have that environment, maybe music playing in the background, that you're not sitting in silence, to encourage that productivity. Okay, so that's the environmental.
So just very important, something that I think is really pertinent, especially since our days in lockdown. Many of us didn't move back into formal offices. We work at our clients, etc. Some of us work in formal offices. But always look at your distractibility, because your productivity is directly linked to that. So am I distracted by sound? Am I distracted by visual things? And for those people who are distracted by sound, there are a number of different ways, either via headsets or just creating an office space or a workspace that has as few auditory interruptions as possible. Visual, the same scenario. Try and keep things as calm as possible and as consistent as possible. You'll find that productivity improves immensely with that. Okay. When we move on to the financial side, now what we're doing, and often this is the case with all sorts of businesses, we tend to neglect one aspect of our lives in relation to the other, personal related and business related. Now, the finances for within a small business are obvious. You know, we want to make sure that our cash flow is fine. We want to make sure we've got a pipeline that is actually generating income for us. We want to make sure that we are running with good margins, and ultimately, we're in business for one thing, from a financial perspective, and it's not to make money; it's to be profitable. Okay, so you need to understand that perspective quite importantly. One of the 3 major stresses in our lives, apart from time issues and general control issues, are financial issues. And if we are not financially healthy, you'll find that it starts affecting your physical aspects of your life. You will start becoming more withdrawn as well into your mind. And that can create, oh, I should have done that deal. I could have done that. The depression side that I spoke about earlier. Or if I start thinking about where my next business is going to be coming from, I start getting anxious. So you see how, like Tamara said, there's this interplay between all eight. And what we want to do is set goals again, real, tangible goals. If it stays in your head, it's a dream. If you write it down, it becomes a goal. And we're actually going to go through a couple of tips and tricks now, in a moment, of how to use these. And they are not necessarily technology based because, yeah, we can all have Zero, we can all use Wave. These are budgeting tools, they're phenomenal, but not everyone works for everyone else, and some of them can be quite costly. So, the last thing I just wanted to mention was outsourcing of services that are not key to your business might just work for you. Obviously, you need to work these things out, but focus on what you do best. If you are a builder, if you have a cleaning service, if you have a dry cleaner, try and see how you can accommodate that as best you can, and the put your finances or any of the other outsourced aspects in the
Mm,
hands of an organization, another business, or a person that you trust, so that you can then grow your business more organically.
mm,
Okay,
absolutely.
if we move to the next one though,
Thanks,
uh,
Jared. Yeah, I just wanted to add there also is as entrepreneurs and business owners, a lot of the time we try to do everything ourselves. And that is a hole for more stress. So absolutely, if you can outsource, the financial side. I mean, I really don't like doing finances and I suck at it. So I have a budgeting and I have Sage that does that for me, that sends out my invoices. So always focus on what you're good at and try not to do everything because you're not an expert in everything. The occupational side, right? So again, we're going through the wellness wheel, all the different areas for those that are still joining in. I see
yeah,
there were some people in the waiting room, so I am including them. Um,
okay.
we are recording the session. There will be a presentation shared, but let's talk about the occupational traps and tips around it.
So, yeah, and I think this is one that both Tamara and I have spoken at length about starting our own business. And I think every single business at its inception really tries to get this one right. Okay. And it's not
Yeah.
always the case because we don't know what we actually need within that organization. The
Mm-hmm.
the biggest pain, the biggest well, it's become one of the biggest costs to business is when the people that you have hired, and it could be you yourself as a founder, it could be your managers, it could be people at any level within your organization, if they're doing too much but not receiving the satisfaction of it, not receiving the benefit, they feel that there's no purpose in it. Um, it creates the B word, which is almost as bad as any other swear word there is, but
The
it's
burnout word.
prevalent. Burnout. And and people need to understand that, I don't work for a business. I work in it and I need to work on it. But now this is something that we try and inculcate with all people, not just the founders, not just the owners of the business. This is something that I'm helping to grow, something that will make a real difference to all the people that benefit from the services or the products that we offer. So often um, having sessions together where I reflect on what it is that I want to achieve or we want to achieve. So, something that we do with a lot of our clients, yes, you'll have master classes, you'll have workshops, but in between, what's actually happening? Do you have an accountability session? Do you have what we call a respect charter? So we run these where we train people and coach people to treat each other with respect, to treat each other in a way that is empathetic, but also takes into account what that organization looks like. What is this occupational environment, this business environment? How do we plan our days so they suit the majority of us, or
Mm.
preferably all of us? How do we treat each other with respect in the workplace, the way that we all want to? We want to all love to come to work. And that's the key behind this element of the wheel.
Mm. Thanks, Jay. Yeah, so I'm going to move on to the social traps, right? So a lot of the times when you're an entrepreneur, business owner, or even working for an organization, you might be a victim of working in isolation, okay, working alone. We know, especially from COVID, that we need people, we need connections, we need to engage with others. It then fuels our intellectual, it fuels, our emotions, right? It's all interconnected. So make sure that you've got that tribe, right? Support your network, get to, pick other people's brains, have, weekly sessions with those that you want to learn from. Myself and Jared, while we partnered, is we found that there was a connection. We found that we're working towards the same goals. So, collaborate with individuals, build new products with individuals, join business networks, really work on that social aspect, because you need it. You cannot work alone. You cannot achieve things. I think it's Stephen Covey that said 1 + 1 = 3. We really use that within our sessions, our workshops, right? When we talk a lot about this whole social EQ tribe that we're trying to build with what we do. And then lastly, again, I'm mindful of time, and we're still going through this quiz, right? We're still thinking about this. We're still assessing where you are on each of these dimensions, but your last one is the spiritual side. As Jared mentioned, what is that? It's not about religion, guys. Spiritual is about, what is your purpose? What is it that's giving you joy? What is your personal vision, mission? What do you want to be remembered for? What is the legacy you want to leave behind? Is it for your children? Is it for your community? Is it for, and usually it is for a greater good, bigger and outside of just ourselves, right? So if you don't have that purpose, very much it does lead into stress, burnout, and disengagement, because you've got nothing to wake up for. Our previous masterclasses that we've done, we talk about that lack of purpose and how it can show up, right? And how if you are in that extreme burnout phase, it's difficult to get out of if you have no sense of purpose, okay? So some tips: make sure you know your values. Make sure that you've thought about what it is you want to give to the world, and make sure that whatever you're doing your day to day, it does give you joy. So some tips and techniques is journaling, quiet time, reflecting, strategy even can then touch on the occupational side. What is the strategy of the business? Where you headed? Is it speaking to your values? Is it speaking to your purpose? So we're hoping that this is starting to make sense. And you can see how the wellness wheel is really very much interconnected. It's a visual, it's a fun tool that you can use and reassess. I know my husband, every year, he literally prints out the tool, and he looks and he says, okay, I need to do this in my physical, I need to do that on my wellness. Very much an engaging process when we coach businesses, individuals, or one-on-one, as we help them through that process. Okay, back to the flash quiz. Okay, so we asked you a couple of questions at the beginning. Now we're going to ask you another couple of questions. Okay, now thinking about the wellness wheel, thinking about what we've talked about this morning so far. Okay, I want you to think about the next 3 questions. First one: I track my progress using OKRs. OKR stands for objectives and key results. Okay, and if you don't know it, we'll explain it just carrying on from the slides, but we want to make sure that you are always improving areas of your wellness. Next question: I adjust my goals and strategies when needed to maintain balance across the wellness wheel. Okay, make your notes. And number 6, I consciously allocate time for self-care and reflection to support my overall well-being. Remember, if you want to use the rubric, 1 is almost never, 5 is almost always. So just track that.
And I have added it in the chat twice.
Thank you, Jared. Okay. Do you want to take us through the practical wellness, basically what it is all about?
So all of these in isolation mean pretty much, my language, but bugger all. It has to be practical. It has to work.
Absolutely.
It has to work for you. So the 4 main elements that we always look at, and we're going to take you through some techniques to actually help you build practical wellness. So the first is you need to set your goals. How do you set them? Well, we're going to talk about a little tool that everyone knows as SMART, SMART. However, there are 2 other elements to that we've added in because we are human, and that's we call them smarter goals. So you'll see specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, time bound, but then they also need to be ethical, So they sit well within our purpose, and they need to be rewarding so that we can feel that we're rewarding ourselves or others are rewarding us. We also need to prioritize. So this is talking about how do you manage your time? How do I identify and focus on those essential tasks and move away from all that white noise that we experience all the time? Then how adaptable are you? How flexibly can I adjust between the different seemingly rigid expectations of the business world and that I sometimes put on myself as a business owner, as an employee, as someone who is in this world of work and just feel like I am a rat running on a wheel and getting nowhere. And lastly, we need to be resourceful. We need to find places where there are like-minded people, there can be human resources that we tap into, our colleagues, fellow businesses, coaches, mentors, um, different sorts of people. But then there are also tools that we need to be able to source. And there are thousands and
There's
thousands of
many tools.
opportunities. It's really about what
What
tools are right.
works?
Yeah, but don't be a magpie. And by that, I mean, ooh, there's the next shiny tool. There's the next shiny technique, and I'm going to do it. And then I'll do the other one, and you end up doing nothing. Find
No.
those 3 or 4 techniques or tools that work for you and be practical about it because your time is precious. Okay.
Okay, thanks, Jay. And just on that, so you'll see again, the wellness wheel's got 8 dimensions. We're now talking practical wellness. Practical wellness applies to all of them. Okay, it's not an area on its own, it's everything. So entrepreneurial traps or business owners traps, or even those that are employees, is we overcommit. We don't have a sense of planning. We don't have goals, or we have goals, but they're in our head. We don't really define them. We don't have a structure towards working towards them. We try to do everything ourselves. I mentioned that as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, we try to do everything ourselves and we fall into that trap. And then the expectations that we set for ourselves maybe are too high, too low, I don't know. But overall, not having a practical element to maintaining your well-being, your wellness, will then lead to stress, burnout, and disengagement. Okay. So we're going to take you through one of the tools and techniques. And again, I'm mindful of the time. We have got about 15 minutes there. One of them, which Jared mentioned, is the SMARTer goals framework, right? So we all know SMART. Okay. It's specific. Your goals should be specific and well-defined. What do you want to accomplish? By when? When is it due? Who's involved? Etc. Measurable. We should measure a goal to know that we're achieving a goal. And how do we measure it to know that we've achieved it? Achievable, right? So they need to be realistic and attainable. You, for example, have never ran a marathon, and now you've decided you're running a marathon in a month. That's not achievable. Okay, maybe in a year's time or 6 months' time. Your goals need to be relevant. Okay, they need to align again with your values, your mission, your vision. Okay, I'm going to move on. You've got the time bound. Go ahead, Jay.
You need to be ruthless with how this time works. And this applies to your teams as well. So if something needs to be done within the next day, within the next month, don't just, wishy-washy sort of say, it can be done in the next 2 to 3 days. No, 12 o'clock on Tuesday, the whatever. Okay, Tuesday next week. This assignment needs to be done. By whom? What is that assignment, etc. Now, don't cut corners. And that's where the ethical side comes in. The moment we cut corners, even if it doesn't break any sort of laws or etc., ethics is what actually sits well and best principles in business. Okay, it is not morals, it is ethics. So we are trying to be as fair and as possible, and to make sure that the process is run in according to best practices, essentially. Now, when you complete these, when you are successful, even if it's one of those subsets of a larger goal, you need to find ways to reward yourself. We were just talking to someone who's in the group today, and she rewards herself with a cup of Seattle coffee or chai tea every single day. Okay. And that's a simple reward, but it is something that you look forward to during the course of the day. So even if you are having a bad day, you do know that there are ways to like lift your spirits and make sure that you are doing okay and you're keeping yourself in equilibrium.
Yeah,
The
something to
smarter,
add.
yes,
Sorry, Jay, just also very important, the larger the goal you achieve, the bigger the reward. And the smaller goals shouldn't be missed, right? So it's mini rewards process, because what happens is we set something out for ourselves and we never actually reflect back and go, I did that. I achieved that big thing that I wanted to achieve. So very important is reward yourself. Sorry, I interrupted you there.
absolutely. So what you'll see, everything interrelates. So the smarter goals that we're talking about now, and the next tool, which is a prioritization tool, which we call the Eisenhower matrix, work hand in hand. And then afterwards, we mentioned something called the OKRs, the objectives and key results. And that is a framework for putting the Eisenhower matrix and the SMART goals into place.
Into one.
So I'm going to very, very quickly just take you through the Eisenhower matrix. And if you want to have a deeper discussion, we are available. So it's really simple. It's a there are 4 quadrants along this matrix. You have section 1, section 2, section 3, section 4, quadrant 1, 2, 3, and 4. The first quadrant is, what are those things that are important? Okay, and now it could be important in context of your personal life, in context of your business. You need to frame what that context is. And then it's urgent. Urgent being time bound, time is imposed on you. It has to be done now. So when something is important and something is urgent, it is something that needs to be done immediately. Okay. When we move to quadrant 2, now that time is not being imposed on you, but it is very important. So you need to do your taxes as a business. You can schedule that. You don't have to do it at the last minute and provisional tax in October. You can start prepping now, even though it's May. If you are planning a staff sort of team build or whatever the case may be, or you are planning your next product offering, your next service offering, try and space it over a period of time so that you do not become stressed and rushed. Okay. Thank you so much for the comment on the ethics, Dipur. We live by that. Okay. Now we move to quadrant 3, and now these are things that are really urgent. You have that client on the other end of the phone, and they need this particular, uh, I don't know, they have a customer complaint, and for them it's urgent. For you, maybe it's something you could get to later. But how do you do this? It might not be important to you. So think how you can delegate. If there's someone else in your team who is less stretched at that point in time, ask them to handle that client, provided they have the knowledge. Okay. And lastly, we always have those things that are not urgent, they're not important. And these are the sort of things that we must try and toss away,
Delete.
or at least move away. Now, we're not going to go through the answer, which is the best one to be in right now, but I would like you to, in the chat section, to say to give me 2 numbers. Number 1, where do you spend the majority of your day? Either in quadrant 1, 2, 3, or 4. And next to that, where do you want to be in quadrant 1, 2, 3, or 4? And now we're going to take this and we're going to move on to the OKRs, which tomorrow is going to take you through, where we integrate the SMART goals, smarter goals, and the Eisenhower.
Yeah. So OKRs stands for objectives and key results. Okay. So think about any goal, right? So today we're talking about the wellness wheel, and we're talking about those goals that we want to achieve in the wellness dimensions, right? Objectives, or your OKRs, the O, Objectives is what is it you want to achieve? Okay, you need to be very specific. Again, apply the SMARTer principles, right? What is it you want to achieve? For example, if you don't think wellness, well-being, I want to listen to a podcast once a week. I want to exercise 3 times a week. Okay, you are very definitive on what is that objective. Then the key result, right? So from OKR, KR is key results, right? Is how are you going to make sure, and what is your benchmark, and how do you monitor that you are reaching that objective? Okay. Obviously, each goal that you define will have different key results. And this is a framework we use when we coach individuals, coach businesses, but really it will be in the presentation. You're going to have access to this, and you will define what is your objective. Okay. Right. So you would write it down. For example, I want to improve my intellectual wellness. I want to listen to a podcast once a week. Okay. Or I want to have meetings with, stakeholders that are improving my intellectual well-being, whatever it is. You write that down. Now you're going to write underneath it, what is the result? Okay. What do you need to do? How are you going to know you're achieving the objective? And then you're going to put a due date for yourself. So it makes you more accountable. It makes sure that you are achieving what you set out to achieve. And these goals are not just in your head, or you are getting overwhelmed by the amount of goals you've set for yourself within the wellness wheel. Okay. So if you want to drill down, you want further explanation, we're available to do that with you. I mean, we will share our contact details. Again, I want us to move on because we've got about 5 minutes left, and you are going to get access to the presentation. But this is a nice way to set out your wellness or your wellness wheel goals. Okay. So you would put physical, what do you need to achieve? Or where are you lacking? Emotional, what is it you want to achieve? Environmental, financial, occupational, etc. But all up, you need to keep in mind the practical wellness, okay, the practical element, and those 3 tools that we just shared with you, right? The Eisenhower is going to help you, okay? Where you're spending most of your time. Are you always in urgent? What can you delegate? What can you plan? What can you schedule? Then you've got the SMARTer principles. Make sure that the goals that you set for yourself meet the SMARTer objectives. Okay, so you're drilling down. And then, right, last one is the OKRs. Right, we hope so far that these have, helped you, these tools and techniques. We're going to go back to the flash quiz, right? These are the remaining questions. I'm going to read them out, and I want you to start assessing. 1 being rarely, 5 being always. Okay, so number 7, or the next question. I seek feedback from trusted sources to improve my wellness strategies and productivity habits. Rate yourself there. Next one. I remain adaptable in my approach, refining techniques like SMART, and now you know the SMARTer goals or OKRs to better suit my needs. Next, I integrate mindfulness or stress management practices into my daily routine to enhance my wellness or well-being. And the next one, I feel confident that my use of the SMARTer goals, prioritization, OKRs contribute to my well-rounded, healthy lifestyle. Okay, so assuming that you've answered all 10 questions from the beginning of the presentation and you use the rubric that we shared with you, you should now be able to count your results. And this is basically the results and what it means. So if you
I think let everyone add it up before that. So let's
100%.
go off the
Take
slide.
a moment.
Let's move off the slide.
Yeah.
Okay. What we would like you to do is whatever numerical value you've given to each question, please just add them up and let's see where you are. So the lowest possible score that you could get, and we will explain what it means in a moment, is 10. If it's been a one for every one of those questions, and the maximum is 50. You'll find that you're all the way, you're in the middle, most of you. Please, can you share in the chat what your scores are?
These are the results.
For those of you that missed the first few questions, if you scroll up in the chat, you will find them. Okay.
20. We have Amanda that says she's 20. So balanced with a room to grow.
Okay. Hayley, 18. So for the first two people, for Amanda and Hayley, what that means is you're developing your balance.
Nice.
You're beginning to explore wellness. You're what we would suggest there is you focus on just one of either the SMART goals or a prioritization method to start. Marie,
Marie, 28.
balanced with room to grow. Okay, so now what we would suggest is that you take the SMART goals, you take the prioritization, and start using a framework like the OKRs to contextualize it. Dipur, 25.
25. Also balanced with
Okay.
room to grow.
Okay.
Anyone else? It's now Jared and I. We complete each other's
Either,
sentences.
either your fingers are very cold or you're very shy, and it's okay. There is no right or wrong here, and you can move backwards and forwards between it, depending on life circumstances, depending on where you are in your business. There's nothing to be overly proud of or ashamed.
Yes.
But we
Okay,
want
so
you to
just
just reflect on your scores.
reflect on it. Exactly. So if you didn't share your score with us, Sophie was given us 15. It's okay. You know, you will have access to the presentation. You can do this one's wheel activity anytime. We help businesses, we help entrepreneurs. You know, we track with them their progress, we help them. So just reflect on these questions. What was your score? What areas you need to be addressed, you feel need to be addressed? Which dimension was lacking and why? And then how can you plan better, right? To create that balance that you need. And again, these are takeaways, right? There's 8 dimensions. And then there's the all practical aspect. Okay, don't overwhelm yourself. Okay, take these key takeaways with you. It starts small. You can pick 1 dimension, 2 dimensions, maybe 3. We always like working in the rule of 3, Jared and I. Prioritize your time. Set micro goals. Make sure those goals are in line with the SMARTer principles. Track your progress. Okay, if you're a type of person that sets out things and never gets to it, I suggest hiring a coach to help you through that process, and that's what we do. It's not about being perfect. Okay, no one is perfect. It's okay if you are lacking in one area, maybe 2 or maybe 3, but it's about those micro goals you set for yourself. What can you achieve today? And maybe that one thing is going for a 15-minute walk. Then that's great. Okay. And then reward yourself because you did the 15-minute walk. You're building the habits gradually. Okay. Don't try to do everything at once. Like we said, celebrate. I always like to remind individuals within our coaching work that Jared and I do is celebrate your achievements, no matter how small or big, and then be intentional with your goals. Okay. Now I'm going to hand over to Jared. See if there's anything you want to add or ask if does the audience have any questions? We've got like a few seconds left. It's 9:30.
But we'll be hanging. We'll be staying around for anyone who wants to ask
Thanks.
a little bit longer. The questions that were on the slide before, if you can just go back.
Yes, absolutely.
Please try and do these in your own time because they will help you. It'll help create a greater understanding of where you are, where you may be lacking, where you might be overdoing it, where you're comfortable, but it creates that game plan for you. And ultimately, your wellness is all dependent on a game plan. You know, you don't start running a marathon and sprinting like crazy, and then you can't, you know, after a couple of kilometers, you finished, and you don't walk the whole thing either. You want to pace yourself. And that's exactly what you need to do with your wellness.
So thank you for the comments. We're getting some nice
Elsie, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.